Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Wednesday, April 5th, around 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. Lake Mead water level rises, defying projections. Well, we predicted it. But the big story, California warns of incapacitating floods as snowmelt feeds the American and Yuba rivers. Keep calm, it's boom time. The impact from storms is already causing destruction in the state. Parts of Tulare County are placed under evacuation orders in March as life-threatening floods devastate the region, and it's only going to get worse. Popular rivers for whitewater rafting and swimming, such as the American and Yuba rivers, are expected to have increased water flows with chilly temperatures that could cause harm to anyone who ventures into the waters. And like all sheeple, there will be people that win the Darwin Award this year. As temperatures rise, snowmelt-fed waterways can quickly induce incapacitating cold water shock to even the strongest swimmers. We encourage everyone to follow the advice of public safety officials and avoid entering waterways unless you're an expert in whitewater and preparedness and you have a dry suit on. So take heed, the spring is going to cause many people to lose their lives. Missouri tornado kills multiple people and sows destruction. At least 5 dead, multiple injured after possible EF2 hits parts of Bollinger County. That's in Missouri. At least 5 people are dead and multiple injured after an early morning tornado today. Governor Mike Parson spoke after touring the area and surveying the tornado damage. And here we can see them filing into the room. Hopefully we have audio.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Olson. I'm the superintendent of the Missouri State Highway Patrol. And on behalf of the patrol, I extend my sympathy and our thoughts are with the families and the communities here who have been affected by this tragedy. And I certainly commit to all of them the patrol resources that are necessary toward our recovery efforts. I'd like to say thanks to all of our public safety stakeholders, and there are always many in a situation like this. In order to reach successful resolution, there have been a number of area fire departments. A unified command approach is here. Our Bollinger County Sheriff the last several days in our state and have been paying attention to the weather.
Well, it appears that we're not going to get anything significant from that guy. And what we do know is that bad things are happening and will be increasing as tornado season reaches its peak in just a few weeks. So more bad news is coming. Let's take a look at the hail map for Tuesday, April 4th. It's exponential. 369,062 different locations impacted by hail 1 inch or larger, and only 535 with 1.75 inch hail, which is good news. So that is what's happening today. Major hail is falling. As severe weather threats shift to the I-95 corridor in the Mid-Atlantic, we get some background cops going on there. This is going to be tomorrow, including Philadelphia and Washington. According to the Fox Forecast Center, enough deep moisture is in place. Some areas that experienced severe weather last weekend could be at risk again for damaging winds, gusts, large hail, and even isolated tornadoes. The isolated tornadoes last week were in New Jersey, so we need to really take some heed to these warnings. And we have no audio here. Let's take a look.
So the Mets have a home opener. Places like Baltimore, D.C., we're going to get up into the mid-80s before the front passes through. Typically, these are 2 spots where you don't get to the 80s until March 31st. Way ahead of schedule. Not only are you dealing with some warmer temperatures, but a lot of humidity certainly in place as well. We got the chance for some severe weather, strong storms. This is going to be possible. Level 1 out of 5. Nonetheless, locations we were just seeing storms on Saturday evening into Sunday, right? We were talking about the Jersey Shore. Over into Delaware, we had that tornado as well. In the state of New Jersey, not only well over portions of the inland spots, but close to the coast on the Jersey Shore, reports of 1-inch hail in places like Asbury Park. Now, as we look at the chance for wind damage, it's a level 1 out of 5. Nonetheless, does include all of New Jersey, right through New York to Long Island. You take that into Asheville, North Carolina. So a lot of the higher elevations through the Smokies also could be dealing with some gusty winds. It's a concern. Be prepared for the possibility for some power outages as well as these winds blow through as we go through the day tomorrow. Here's Future Track, 10 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock, getting ready to go out to lunch on a Thursday afternoon. Probably not the best idea. Pretty soggy from Charleston to Pittsburgh. You got scattered showers in and around New Jersey. Couple of pockets popping up by the commute home. This does extend all the way into Roanoke, Virginia. You got pockets in West Virginia. The Delmarva starts to get pretty rowdy between 7 and 9 o'clock. You take that back into Virginia Beach, Raleigh included in that. And then take a look at this. Middle Tennessee over to East Tennessee, you're dealing with more in the way of rain. You've been dealing with so much rain, so could be watching for pockets of localized flooding there. 8 o'clock Friday morning, the commute all the way up and down the Carolinas will be hit or miss with some of these scattered showers. Nonetheless, enough to see some ponding on the roads. D.C.
So there we see the forecast coming out from Fox for the East Coast. So heed the warnings, and our full forecast is coming up in just a moment. As calving season sees challenges for farmers and ranchers in the northern plains, it's insane. South Dakota cattle producers are battling blizzards amid calving. Take a look at the snow here. This is high impact for young livestock. That's what we call this in this region. And this is not a situation you want to see in the spring, ding-ding, when there's some pregnant mamas out there and heavy snow. This is when you get suffocations, frostbite, and freezing of animals. So that's what's happening in our meat-producing states, especially in South Dakota. But another blizzard brings more challenges to North Dakota as well. Multiple blizzards have moved through the region, and another one is set to line up for the north in just a few days. And this is affecting North Dakota farmers and ranchers as well. As Lake Mead levels rise, defying predictions, we told you that instead of dropping, Lake Mead would rise and would meet this green line from last year. They predicted the mimicking of these lines and a drop down through March, and it didn't happen. It's gone up, and it's at least 3 feet above their predictions. This is because the drought intensity is completely eliminated. There's just some small sections of abnormally and moderately dry, very few regions severely dry, and as the U.S. as a whole, our exceptional and extreme drought is located only in a few states, including Kansas and northern Texas, the nexus of the Schmexis, as well as the panhandle of Oklahoma, as well as central Texas. So just a few regions here. One up here in northeast Nebraska. Kiss my... These may all come to an end in the summer of bummer as the weather shifts. Now, the reason why we have such extreme shifting, especially when we were talking about this forecast earlier here, let me just bring you back to the forecast where he was showing the extreme weather. See if we can get it there. I don't think it's going to allow us that kind of usage, these bricks. There it is. Let's take a look at the severe line of weather. This is coming just tomorrow. And we lost it. Okay. Well, that's not going to work for us, but it will work for us in the full forecast as we move forward. Strong storms from the Great Lakes region into the mid-Mississippi Valley. The storm that brought blizzard conditions and severe weather for the center of the nation tracks eastward today from the Great Lakes region through the middle Mississippi Valley. Damaging winds, large hail, along with a few tornadoes are in the forecast just to the east of the cold front. Record high temperatures are expected today. Later this week, threat of heavy rainfall for the Gulf Coast. And let's take a look at what we mean by this. Here is the current weather situation, and you can see a heavy band of storms now kicking up. And it looks like right through central Ohio and eventually getting to Pittsburgh and northwestern PA. Let's move that through. Boom. And there it goes. And then you can see the severe weather threat by tomorrow morning on Thursday, all the way through East Texas, up through Louisiana, Arkansas and into Tennessee here. Take a look at as that moves east. This could develop some severe storms in the morning. That's going to move east and then redevelop back in East Texas in a big way on Friday morning. Look at that. So the southeast is going to be some lingering severe weather. Hopefully this moves offshore before it explodes in South Carolina. But it's anyone's guess. And then we're going to have heavy precipitation coming in at the end of the weekend in the Pacific Northwest in a record way in British Columbia and into Washington State, with heavy moisture moving through Oregon and Washington through the desert in areas that need lots of moisture. Now, it looks like California is out of the woods from any flooding as this next system develops at the end of next week on April 14th and then bombs out in North and South Dakota, where the ranchers really cannot afford this. But shortly after that bomb out, we have another system here, Sunday, April 16th, moving into the Sierras and dropping south into the Four Corners region. This could be the first flooding event, April 17th or so, that could bring headlines to the news. So stay tuned for more booms. As we look at the total precipitated moisture and snow, ho, ho, ho. Shut up, Al. Get in your hole. He's pissed it's snowing this deep through the end of April. Take a look at the snow totals in the Sierra spine there. There's a system coming in here April 17th and 18th, which is going to bring that flooding that could bring another 4 to 6 feet to the Sierras, tilting the limits of record keeping to all-time highs. Seismic update. No quakes of note. The most recent rocker, 5.2 in Indonesia, 80 kilometers northwest of Luwuk. But overall, nothing happening except some major fracking activity in Oklahoma. Who knew? Now you do. Hello. Worldwide volcano news update. Nothing much to report. Well, we do have some important reports, but Fuego puffing to 15. Nevado de Ruiz only 23,000 feet as the seismic swarm continues there. We also have Popo, Semaru, and Shivalush. Shivalush puffing to 13,000 feet. Aoba back on the list. Low-level eruption visible on webcam. Cotopaxi. Sabancaya to 25,000. Bezamiani, 14,000 foot puff. And that brings us to the real news. Taupo. Topal volcano, New Zealand, seismic unrest weakens. We reported 4 weeks ago on the major uptick in seismicity happening at the volcano. They did lower the alert level to green, but the seismic swarm has not ended. It is still continuing. It began back in May of 2022 and is continuing at similar levels today with a peak just a few months ago. But we need to keep a close eye on this. Even though they reduced the alert level, it does not mean the threat is gone. The ongoing seismic unrest period has now lasted for 10 months. The decreasing trend itself started earlier this year, and it reflects the reduction of the number of earthquakes and returns gradually to levels before May of 2022. The rate of inflation may have decreased as well over the measured period. Therefore, the alert level has been reduced to green. But stay tuned for more updates on Topal, because that is a significant threat to the entire planet. Space weather news. The sun is quiet and completely blank. The sunspots that were once potentially a threat are now degrading, diminishing, and moving off the disk, and it's almost embarrassing that we can call this solar max. Anyone that thinks we're not in a grand minima at this point is either lying to you or trying to get clicks, period. This is not how the sun looks at solar max, ever, period. And solar max is expected to continue for another year. But the solar polar field update just a few days ago is showing that all solar polar fields, the north and the south, are reversing at this time or in the next few months. They've retracted the southern solar polar field reversal, which coincided with the Turkey quake. I don't know why. But the northern polar fields, instead of moving up, are now crossing the 0 point. So what this means, if we move this forward, is in the next few weeks, we're looking at some of the largest earthquakes, 8 magnitude potentially, coming to Earth. So take heed and prepare yourself if you're in a major fault for when this boom is coming, because it is coming. Mark my words. radio signals detected coming from a distant planet could signify alien life. Now, this doesn't mean they have a radio up there and they're sending out signals like, hey, please, hey, we're over here. It's a lot different than that. And if you hear anything different, then, well, people are making stuff up. But in fact, a coherent radio signal has been detected coming from a distant exoplanet. This suggests that there could be exoplanets out there with habitable life. Now, those of you that are long-term listeners know what that means. In order to have habitable life on a planet, you need a magnetosphere. And in fact, that's exactly what this data is showing. The researchers theorize that the stellar radio waves they detect are generated by the interactions between the magnetic field of the exoplanet and the star it orbits. That's amazing. So we may have habitable planets nearby. It's not that close. I think it's about 100. It's 12 light years away. And the exoplanet named YZ Ceti B, located 12 light years. That's pretty close from Earth. May have a magnetic field. So this is the closest planet we could get to that we can repopulate that's not Mars. Hello. Just takes 12 light years to get there. Hello, Elon. Now, we've all heard about Snowball Earth, but it may not have been an endless frozen wasteland after all. Long before complex life crawled on to the surface of Earth from the oceans to make itself home on dry land, Earth endured an ice age like no other. On 2 separate occasions, fingers of ice stretched far from the poles, turning the planet into a frozen wasteland. But this wasteland may have not been completely ice-free. In fact, a new study coming out shows evidence that in the equatorial regions, there were large swaths of ocean that were open, as well as mid-latitude maybe outliers, such as the picture you're seeing here. Now, is this a real representation? It's anyone's guess. It's simply a scientific paper. But I do digress. The news is in. In that vein, a new study by researchers from China and the UK is the latest to suggest Snowball Earth wasn't completely covered in ice and might have been exhibited habitable open ocean conditions far away from the equator. Just what caused the Earth to suddenly dip into an extended cold snap around 700 million years ago isn't all that clear. A drop in sunlight, perhaps, or a loss of greenhouse gases. Nonsense. Followed by a feedback of ice-reflecting heat, creating yet more ice. Well, the reality is that scientists are so stupid, they are claiming to you with a straight face that a trace gas in our atmosphere, carbon dioxide, causes warming. And they couldn't be further from the truth. So any analysis like this, extending back 700 million years, is poppycock to begin with. Because, well, science is dead. Well, maybe not. A new study coming out, it's not peer-reviewed, it's a pre-release, 3rd of April, it's just 2 days ago. No reliable studies of climate change without Henry's Law, and a new thermometer for the global temperature. In this paper, they prove unequivocally that CO2 does not control temperature. In fact, in this paper, they prove that temperature is the controller of CO2. And as the temperature warmed recently, CO2 increased by 90%. So right there, you should have a little pause and say, wait a minute, what does that even mean? Well, according to the paper, it means that all of the IPCC studies are garbage. More garbage coming out from the University of Pittsburgh professor. This guy here, pictured here, claims to be an anthropologist. The only problem is that this anthropologist can't tell the difference between a man and a woman when looking at bones. Apparently, he missed the undergraduate course when they show you how to do that exactly. He got laughed off of the platform, in fact, but he's not a real anthropologist. He's a socio-cultural anthropologist, and a woke schmucktard at that. Go woke, go broke, and get fired. That's what I say. Professor Gabby Yearwood's statement was the most embarrassing thing any scientist could say in front of an entire room of students. When asked by one of his students if he could tell the difference between male and female bones if he dug them up, he said, no, there's no way to tell. Which, if you don't know, is categorically a lie. The reason women can give birth is because their cervix is completely different than men's. It has a larger opening in the basal plate of the hip bone. It's that simple. Plus, male musculature is much more muscular. Therefore, the bones are thicker and have larger muscular attachment surfaces than females. So, just so you didn't take the undergraduate course, this douchebag actually declared after he got laughed at that he has a PhD. Apparently, he didn't get the memo that even if you have a PhD, you can still be an idiot, just like Professor Gabby Yearwood. Now, this is coming in from one of our fans, Be Friendly, and this is their channel over at BitChute. This is approaching lightning time-lapse in Victoria, Australia, and I thought it was spectacular. And it just shows you how much lightning is possible in one place in just a few hours. That's a pretty awesome time-lapse. And I have it on half speed. And there appears to be dozens, if not hundreds, of strikes just in this one location. As predicted 8 years ago, hail size would increase, lightning would increase, and Lake Mead would fill. I think our predictions fit the bill. What say you? Leave your comment below, and that's a boom to knowledge. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit that thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Become a Patreon. Support the work we do. The most important thing you can do is share this video. We are shadow banned by the complete, nonsensical, Nazistic oligarchy at YouTube. They make up rules, and they only promote channels that make you dumber. Be safe. We love you. And fuck YouTube. Oh, I'm sorry I cursed.